This is Face to Face with the co-founders of the National Association of Expert Advisors, Jay Kinder and Michael Reese.
We believe that we can change the real estate industry. There is a better way to sell real estate.
Your success is ultimately a sum of the decisions that you make.
And they're really developing a process, a set of guidelines, a set of procedures.
They're also best-selling authors.
Here today to discuss the issue is Jay Kinder and Michael Reese.
Well, welcome to Face to Face. I'm Jay Kinder.
And I'm Michael Reese.
And today we got a special, probably one of the things that, it's probably the thing that we probably do the best, and we do the best with our clients as well, is helping them get clear on what it is that they really want. And I think clarity is probably one of the most valuable things you can learn how to create for yourself and your business, so that you actually end up where you want to end up in your life. And I think for us, Michael, I know for a fact for me, I didn't ask this question early enough in business, so I think that's why in my giant book of strategic planning and getting clear and how to get clear and execute on a plan, the reason we spend so much time, effort, and energy on it is because we spend a good portion of our life doing a lot of work to build a business that ultimately we couldn't really do anything with, and we made some money along the way, and that's great, but we really didn't have a clear vision for what we wanted or where we wanted to end up. And I think this is just a great topic, really a timely topic to help you get clear on what it is that you're building and where it is that you want to go. And I know you have some thoughts on this. So
yeah, that I want to give you a one of the things that people don't realize is when you lead people. I think what Jay, me and Jay were sitting down and we were having a conversation, and I'm just putting this out here because I don't think there should be any rails to this. I think the goal is to deliver value, and
right.
I want to say one thing. Getting clarity, you think of it outside of your business as well. I think everybody. I was talking the other day about for sale by owners. Everybody has a different of approach. Ultimately, there's a goal that you're trying to accomplish. But what I want to say about what I think that was awesome that you did with all the people here at the company was really getting clear on your personal core values. And the reason that's important to all of the areas of your life, because that becomes a filter, in business that, you want to build from. And so it's really, it goes back to, the best life to live is a life by design,
right.
By Jim Rohn. And I think, I talked to an amazing agent, had 30% market share. He knows who he is. Just doing really well. And in fact, I checked him out on Facebook. He just recently joined our mastermind. You could tell he had his, personal life dialed in.
Right.
But when I asked him, I asked him some questions about his goals. I could tell that complacency would set in when you really don't really have anything that you really want or clear
right.
on why you're doing what you're doing and stuff like that. So I think, man, this is going to provide a tremendous amount of value for people that want to know, what makes Jay Kinder get up and be at the office, hours before anybody
right.
else, and what drives individuals like us to continue to produce, and what are the things that I personally, I guess to me it's clarity, and,
right,
and that's why I'm excited. I think it's something that if you can get real clear, when you're clear on the why, the how is easy.
Right, no question. And I think when it comes down to getting clear, I think you always have to start personally, because that's really what's coming from within, right? And that's what our businesses are, kind of a mirror image of our own entrepreneurial spirit and what we value and we don't value, and our core values tend to match what we have personally as our core values and whatnot. But I think getting clear on where do you want to be 10 years from now is a good first place to start, because you can look up in 10 years has gone by,
right?
And you really didn't get any closer to a financial goal that you had, or you didn't have a plan for where you wanted to be. So just having a goal of selling 500 homes, I'll give as an example,
right.
Or being number one in the world for Coldwell Banker as an example, is not a good plan for you to have, because it doesn't take into consideration where do you want to be? Is that business sellable? Do you want to have a certain amount of cash that you have liquid? just certain number of rental properties that you want to own, and a passive income, winning in the cash flow game, or whatever it is that your goal is. But if you don't get clear on that, then you most certainly will never get on a path to accomplish that. You get on a path to, like I did, becoming the number one agent in the world for Coldwell Banker. You may accomplish that, but did you really accomplish what you really wanted? Are you spending more time or less time with your family? Are you spending, are you being able to, cross things off the bucket list, or not? Are you still living in that, living a perfect day where you have the opportunity to do whatever it is you want? Because I think most entrepreneurs don't want to sit at home and do nothing.
Right.
I can only sit on the beach for a small period of time before I've got to be engaged in something intellectually, to stimulate my mind. But did you really create that perfect day for yourself where you're able to spend time with the people you want to spend time with, in the amounts that you want to spend them, and do whatever you want, whenever you want? And I think this dovetails nicely right into the passion and what's your purpose? There's a you were talking about it this morning.
Yeah, you got me wanting to take notes.
Right, you start this. I mean, this morning when we were talking about it,
Right.
and you said it a dozen times. Man, you want the ball in your hands when the game's on the line. That's when you're engaged in work that really
Meaningful
matters.
work.
It's
Yeah.
meaningful,
Yeah.
and it needs to be done, and you can lead that. That's empowering for you, right? Like
Yeah.
that's living. That's living, right? Like
Yeah.
not doing meaningful work, digging a hole, fill it in, dig
Right,
a hole,
right.
fill it in, dig a hole, fill it in, which is what I felt like in my real estate business after a number of years of hiring and recruiting agents, and then replacing them, and hiring and recruiting
Right.
agents and then replacing them. It starts to feel like, okay, go dig the hole. Okay, go fill it back in today. Okay, go dig the hole. Go fill it back in. That is not meaningful work for me.
Right.
And I didn't know that. Knowing what I know now, I would want to make sure that I was clear on, what is important to me in terms of the work that I'm doing. Am I changing people's lives? How am I changing people's lives? And who are the people that I'm working with? Who am I spending my time with on a daily basis? Are they pushing and challenging me to become better? Like, those things really mattered, but I wasn't clear about that.
Right. Dude, that's amazing. Don't let me get started, because I'll take this all. You got me all in shambles here. I think a good thing for us to say is maybe share some of the things that worked for each of us, and what, from a personal perspective, and to add, I think that there's a lot of stuff I just know from my personal experience that, for me, it's not about the economic opportunity as much as it is the other things that are as important. And the reason being is because I don't feel insecure in my ability to earn, right? And so fear comes from a place of self-preservation. It's unfortunate that people who operate from a place of fear, they're just not really confident, in the things that they're doing and that they're trying to accomplish. Which, just as a point of reference on a personal note, sometimes a lot of those things are not true. And I can tell from personal experience that this is just my own kind of wishy-washy here, but from my own personal experience, and there was a time where Jay's really on his workouts, and then I wasn't on my workout, and that there was this shift, and I'll never forget. I went a week and a half without working out after I had been posting in this group of working out, and it was like I had to jump back in and post, right? And it was weird because I didn't want to jump back in because I hadn't been working out, and I literally saw your workout and John's, and your workout and John's, and your workout, and I was like, you know what? Why am I playing this head game? This is my accountability group. This is what I set out for. And a buddy of mine, John Kitchens, he is just
never misses.
Never misses.
Like
solid as
yeah,
hell.
right, man.
Yeah.
You can look up every day. He go post
every day. And I was I was talking to him, and this is for me. I have a good friend, Hal, who recently, author of The Miracle Morning, who got sick. I have a friend that got sick, an acquaintance at OU, Texas. I met a couple who, their best friend, the wife passed away and left a gentleman our age with 3 children. And it just put things into perspective. And so, I think you have to operate from a place of, really, I think you have to get the filter out. And the perfect day exercise is good because you really got to get clear on what your perfect day is and the things that that you really want. And so there was this exercise Frank Kern introduced us to a long time ago, 2009 to be exact. And it was like, what is your perfect day you can do every day? Where would you wake up? And I'll, for me, and it's interesting, but for me, I wrote, my perfect day was kind of co-created actually living it with Jay, because, there was this time where I didn't want the day to stop. I didn't want the weekend to end. I didn't want to go back to work. It was just like a perfect day.
Right.
And it included like boat slips and I mean, jalapeno chips. And I remember you had made amazing steaks, great country western music, right on the water, good people. And I think, I think that there's a lot that has to do with your mind's eye and its ability to understand why you're doing all of this. And so I did this exercise that I shared with you, that was shared with me from Woods. And the exercise was this meditation exercise. And the only reason I'm sharing it was there was this moment when my son was reaching up for the oven. And I looked down on him, and his eyes were just beautiful. Like he was like just this beautiful person. And I was making turkey tacos. And the next day I did this exercise in meditation in the car before I came in, and it was an amazing exercise. And it was not in the normal context of meditation, but at one point it said, imagine, happiness. What's happiness? And right when they said imagine a picture of happiness, I remembered my son just reaching up for the oven to turn the knob, and that was the picture that came into my mind. And those little things that seem, and just for the record, I've seen that many, many times. And what it made me aware of is when I'm at home and those moments are just happening around me over and over and over, that people who aren't as fortunate, we take those for granted. And so, I was telling Jay that there was this article that or this video I saw that a guy who crushed it, knocked the cover off the ball. I mean, he went from the Antarctic to all over the country and posted. He was basically telling a story about 100 of the people who were interviewed on their deathbed, and he said, in that interview, he said that people's number one regret was the things they didn't attempt to do. That was like, it wasn't like, that was the common theme, that people had regrets, right? And so, like, how do you transfer your ability to get really clear, get to an empowering state where you're not playing to not lose, but you're actually playing to win.
Right.
And you have these empowering emotions that empower you and the people around you. Like, you empower me, you give me energy, you set the standard. How do you really leverage the truth that we know, that you're the people you're surrounding yourself with, and that the core, my exercise I've done it for 3 years in a row. I know where every single paper is. Me and my wife do 100 goals every year, and it's funny because the amount that I focus on hers.
Right.
I make her goals my goal. I got her sheet. It's in my Evernote, and so I think when happy wife, happy life.
Right.
I mean, that's a little mental model, but the real core thing is I think before you get all this business and stuff distracting you, really get focused on what's important to you. And don't let that distraction, I don't think that you have to operate from a place where you can't have both. In fact, I think if you really get to I think that there's this alignment that when you're, in life, when you're like living by your core values and everything that you really, I don't feel aligned when internally I don't feel right when like I'm not doing the things that I know I should be doing. Right. You know what I mean? And so John and the accountability group, you're going to come off your game, but really getting in front of, I'm going to end it with this. I don't mean to rant because I know you have a lot to contribute, and you're probably thinking you made
That's
me
great,
think
dude.
so.
Yeah, that's great.
But I talked to a buddy of mine, Al Stasik, and he was telling me this is embarrassing. I had shot a video and I didn't post it, and this is why I shot a video and I said I was running, dude, and I had been like not running for 7 days. And so I was running and I was shooting this video, and I was talking to the camera, and I was like, hey, listen, this is to our accountability text group. And I said, listen, if you're saying that you're going to start tomorrow because you fell off, blah, 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 you should. So I did the whole thing. And then I got home, and I got home and I did something that was it was my diet. It was off. And I was like, I said to myself, well, I'm going to eat. It was like a Saturday. I was like, well, I'm going to go ahead and eat this and start tomorrow. And I was like, that's not in alignment with what I just said on this video. I was talking from my workouts. It was okay, but my diet wasn't on point. And and that's when I joined Orange Theory. Like, I had been wanting to do it, and I was like, you know what, I got to take massive action. I got to commit at another level to get to where I want to be. And you know, there's all this talk that I'm going to start Orange Theory tomorrow. And after I ran, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go sign up today and go today. I'm not going to wait till tomorrow. I'm going to actually take my own advice that I'm not going to post because it's embarrassing, because it's not congruent with what I was just about to do. And so I was talking to Al, and Al was like, we're at the end of the call, and hopefully he doesn't care that I shared this. I'll leave the details out, but he said, man, I haven't told anybody this, but I'm going to tell you, Michael Reese. And I said, what is it? He said, there's 2 goals that I have for next year, dude, and he goes through them. And one of them was, you know, personal goal with, and I'm going to share it. It was get his pro tennis card. So we'll hold him accountable to that.
Oh,
so he wanted to get his pro tennis card, and he was just so close, and he wanted to do it for his kids and all that. And then he said, and the next thing he was telling me about his workouts, and I was like, so I told him the story about that, why he should be able to just start today. And so I think, you know, all I'm sharing from a personal perspective is like my work game is off when my personal game is off, and vice versa.
I mean, I was just reading something about that just a couple days ago. Yeah. And it was, and it might have even been something that was Vern Harnish's in his stuff that I was just reading through. But you know, it talked about creating an organization where the health is around the personal first. You know what I'm saying? Like doing an evaluation, everyone in your company on you know, are you in alignment with, you know, in all the areas of your life, right? We've seen all, you know, everybody's gone through the, you know, the wheel, and you know where you are in your wheels. You know, got one place where you're probably off. I think that's always the case. I don't think anybody has this perfectly round wheel where you're spiritually, family, where everything is dialed in perfectly, right? But and I think the text the video that you shot, I've shot that video and sent it. You know what I'm saying? And then gone in and ate something I shouldn't have probably ate. You know what I'm saying? Right. So like I know we've all been there where our game's a little bit off, but I think what you're hitting on is something that is absolutely paramount, right? Like when you have your, like, it don't matter. It does not matter. It goes both ways. But if you don't have your family game dialed in, right? You can only go so long before that rears its ugly head and becomes a problem, right? Or you become aware of it, and you know, and it starts to affect you. And you know that. So I get people ask me all the time, what's the strategy? Why you get up at 4 o'clock every morning? Because I post it on Instagram every day. Right. And what do you that's it's part of my process. I do it because I want to be able to go home at 5 o'clock, and sometimes I don't get to, but most of the time I can control that, and I can get enough done in the day. It starts at 4. I hit my workout. I'm in the car. I'm at the office. I've done my Miracle Morning. And I've got a couple hours of work that I can get done that's meaningful that I need to get done. And if everything goes good, I get to go home before the sun goes down. I get to play with my kids. I get to see them when they're in a good mood. I get to read them stories and put them to bed, just like you have a ritual, right? That also makes your wife happy. It makes my wife happy. If I was coming home every day, and we've been through this, like there's a point where I came home every day and I'm in the house, I walk in the house, I'm on the phone, right? You've shared with me the same thing. Right. Like it's not intentional, but it's not, we weren't being intentional about how we were spending our time with our families, and it has an impact, right? And once you get control of that, you can, you're much more likely to get control of your business and the things that you're doing there. But if that's off, you can guarantee, you know what I'm saying, and there's just guilt that you have, you know what I'm saying, like when you're not dialed in on everything else that you carry with you, you know what I'm saying, and it slows you down. It's like dragging dead weight, but like trying to create those rituals that are performance based, that drive performance and around the things that matter to you is really what fulfillment is all about. Like if you want to live a fulfilled life, do the things that you want to do that fulfill you in all of those areas, and you'll never work a day again in your life, right? But you can't do that if you got a broken business model that in your real estate business that has you continuously working with people you wouldn't really choose to spend your time with. not having the kind of impact on people's lives that you would like to have, not being able to create leaders and build something because you're always replacing people. And this goes for anybody in any industry. If you're selling a product let's say a residual product, for instance, and you have more people canceling than you can sell, and people aren't happy, you're not going to be happy. You're not really providing any value in changing people's lives. Like the most, the thing that I think drives me the most is the impact on people's lives, the impact you can make on one person's life and their, leaders creating leaders, and the impact that they make on another person's life and on another person's life. And when you look at the end of the day, like the things that really matter, outside of the personal side, but in the business, like the things that all my trophies and all the awards and all that shit that I've won over the years are all boxed up. I don't, they're not profiled out in my house anywhere. You know what I'm saying? I could give two shits about being number 2 in the world for Coldwell Banker or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't mean anything to me. But what does matter to me is, man, when I see a person break through and do something and become someone that they weren't before, their lives are changed forever, right? Like that's fulfillment, right? Like when you see that, or when you change a client's life, or you help, even if it's working with buyer or seller, whatever the case may be, like being able to live a life where you're changing people's lives, man, that's and we talked about it through strategy. Yeah. What really, I think our executive team, I'd put them up against anybody in the world. Super driven and passionate and purposeful individuals in this organization, and every day getting to put themselves to the test. And be able to do something meaningful work that matters is the reason that we're able to continue to build a successful business, in my opinion. But and I think on a bigger scale, as you start to build an organization, you have to help them get clear. Every individual in the organization has to be clear on what their goals are, and it's your responsibility as a leader to help them accomplish their goals. And if you can do that, then only then can you have a shared vision where you could accomplish something together. If you're not helping people accomplish their own personal visions, then you're very unlikely. It's very unlikely you're going to have them together. Helping you accomplish a shared vision if they're not accomplishing their own vision, right? So it all starts at that foundation, with having getting your eating right, working out, that miracle morning, you know what I'm saying, the personal growth, you know what I'm saying, like all of those things, like that's at the foundation. I think we've always known that, but not recognizing that every human being in your organization has to be in that same rhythm. And when that happens, magic is created, right? Yeah. But you have to be doing something that that is in alignment with your vision too. You know what I'm saying? It can't just be selling more houses. Right. I think that's just my 2 cents. I don't know if this was valuable or not.
No, I think it's extremely valuable. And I think the point is I think the point that we're making is that you have to have clarity on in your personal life in order to get clarity throughout your business. And I think what you're saying is I know that people, it never made sense, okay? Like we're not in the coaching business anymore, but people would ask, well, why do you coach? And I would answer truthfully, but it would almost seem like I was answering like because I didn't have a better answer and it was the thing to do, right? Right. Until you really, when you're running a team, you're coaching people. So what you're describing is that some people, if you're doing it right. Meaning if you look at what a coach is, and it's funny, man. I wrote down that we're going to talk about this, okay? All right. I came up here like very early in the morning over Thanksgiving, and I talked a little bit about some goal things that, again, John turned me on to James Clear's blog, and it was what motivated me. And if something helps me, I try to help someone else. I don't care. It's just how I am. Right. So it was like everybody wants to be a gold medalist, but nobody wants to train like an Olympian. And then it was this whole rudders and oars, and like the goals are where the rudder and then the oars are what you do daily. And after I posted that, a guy who Josh Chandler sent me an instant message. Hey man, you nailed that. This guy owns 200 plus employees, like
Right.
Super
huge
Uber,
company.
Yeah, and then
I see his trucks everywhere.
Everywhere. Then
Right.
Todd Abrams sent me a post.
Right.
And
Another
said,
super successful.
Super successful, and not in our industry, owns Icon Mills, and he joined Orange Theory afterwards and texted me after he went the next day, all because I was just talking about the work that it takes and so what it did for me was and I wanted to. It comes back to T-ball, so I'm just putting it out there. This is what happened. So. This is huge, dude, huge for me, and I don't care. For me, I just like to transfer value that I learned to other people. And so, we were going. There was these two things, and I was talking about the goals, the rudder, the oars. What helped me was understanding what was I willing to sacrifice, what pain was I willing to go through. That little mental adjustment was a challenge. I don't mind. I actually did not want to get out of bed a couple times over the last 2 weeks. I promise you, if you go to Orange Theory,
you will feel that same feeling.
Right. Yeah, I guarantee it.
Right.
And so, but I went, and it was because I had tackled that was the pain that I was willing to sacrifice to pay. Well, back to your point is, so after I did that whole call and I had all these people respond, and it wasn't a goal of mine. I just was I was just trying to put goodwill into the world, believe it or not. And that's why I shot the video. The camera was there. I was sitting there thinking about something. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do a video. And I just did it. And it was nice to know that, people paid attention and it provided value. If it didn't, it's okay. That was my intent. And I was driving home and I was like, what is the most valuable thing I could do if I was more intentional about it? And I said, coaching T-ball was, I mean, maybe not for you, but for me was an experience.
Yeah,
so me and Jay
it
both,
was definitely an experience.
We both coached our kids T-ball, and I would like to share with you from clarity and because it goes back to what you were saying. We coached for this company first called I9, and if you want to witness a process and a business model that was impressive. They really had scalability and
I9 Sports.
I9 Sports. It was cool, to see their business model.
Right. They solved a real problem. That's for sure.
They did, and when when we became the coach, there was this process you went through, and they had this plan. But you're a coach, so all this spurred out of the coach, and you had this process in which you wanted to drill down into them, teamwork, and there was these little things. Jay would come with note cards. They would all be printed out with the lesson of the day, and we'd go through our practice, and then we would sit down with them all. And these are kids. We'll tell you the funny part of the story. But the point that I learned, and it's just the way that I grew up, and I don't need to go there, but I don't remember a lot of people coming to me and saying good job, Mike. There wasn't this. I did encounter it when I was 14 through friends' parents that I gravitated to because I was looking, not because my parents, that's just not how they were wired. It is what it is. But I didn't have that. So I don't give that naturally. And so I watched this webinar on how to be a good T-ball coach, and it talks about if you're good at giving high fives, then you qualify, right? And it was, to put it in perspective, we get out on the field and these kids go everywhere. They do whatever they want, and it's harder with your own kids.
Our kids are the worst.
Yeah.
They don't listen to us at all.
They don't.
If there was any hope of us winning the crowd,
right?
It was out the window.
It was out the window.
We had 3 of 10 or 3 of 9 or whatever it was.
And let me tell you something. You ain't going to do this job by yourself. You ain't going to be a solo T-ball coach. You're going to need everybody on the field, everybody's help, and everybody's participation. And what I learned was how important recognition was for people in their soul. I remember looking at this little girl Nadia, and I remember giving her a high five. It stuck with me afterwards. I gave her a high five, and then in the middle of a play, she ran up and hugged my leg. And for me, when we come to work, sometimes, I didn't operate. I don't go up to people and give them a high five or walk up to them and say, hey, you're doing a good job. I just figured, with me, it's hey, listen, no one come to my office and give me a high five. I don't think that way, but that's not, I don't have a behavior that I'm trying to model where I've had that experience from someone. And maybe I have seen it, but I've always just thought that guy's a really nice guy, or man, that's why he's successful. And I see it no more as a leadership quality.
Right.
And so, and that's what I took from it. It became very important to clearly communicate, communicate what it is, where first base was, to drop the baseball bat, what your intentions were at every state, and then more importantly, to praise the effort of people that you're working with. And I know that it seems like something, I think that everybody should have to coach T-ball.
Right.
Because from a leadership standpoint, from a leadership, I know people have some of this naturally, and it's, just I'd love to learn more from you. It wasn't natural for me, but since that day, I always had those feelings internally, but I just never acted on them. You know what I mean? I never told the guy. I never made the effort. I went to my office, shut the door, came across a different way. And so, I think Jay Abraham said it best. It's hard to be great when you don't know what greatness looks like.
Right.
So, in the theme of what we've done is I think it's really good to, when you get clarity for your life, it's really good to adopt the modeling and seeing the people that are where you want to be.
Right.
And then not just modeling them, but trying to model how they think. Trying to understand, like, how does that, what is that person's values that causes him to make those types of decisions? Because that's where you get the internal change.
Right.
You can model somebody's behavior and say, okay, he's giving high fives to these individuals, but when you really take a step back and try to drill it down to the principle, then reason back up to, it's not that the guy's giving high fives, the guy generally cares, and he's, and that was my takeaway from T-ball. I'd love to hear yours.
That's T-ball was take everything you think you know about anything and throw it out the window. I mean, you can be the greatest baseball player of all time, and you can lead a company of people, but you ain't done nothing till you tried to lead a T-ball team. You know what I'm saying? Like
under five.
It was a great experience, and you're right. Those kids, they crave praise, and it's funny because I actually started How to Win Friends and Influence People. Just literally like this, and it's not the first. It was the first book I ever read, actually, because they made me read it in Dale Carnegie training.
Right.
And don't criticize and condemn. And I think one of the challenges that I always have is I'm always trying to improve, make improvements, whether it's people or it's a process, whatever it is. I'm always trying to make improvements. How do I make it better? How do I make it better? And most of the time, that I come from that place, right? Like, we did a good job. Doesn't matter. How can we make it better? Right. But that a lot of times results in coming from a not criticizing or condemning, but not from the place of giving praise first, right? And I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned in How to Win Friends and Influence People that is really the model for thinking, really, for how you should be thinking. You know what I'm saying? If you really want to be, not just a happier person, but just be able to communicate with people and be a great leader. So I definitely recommend that book. And the reason I picked up the book actually is because a person that I have tremendous respect for, one of our mentors, we pay a lot of money every month, our coach, he comes from that place all the time, and it was one thing I remembered of all the books. He's like, I do this one every December.
Right.
So trying to model his behavior.
Right.
And I said, scrolling through my books, I'm like, I'm going to this one next. And it's just something that I know that is one of the most valuable things you can have, and getting if you want to get clear on accomplishing your goals, you have to adopt a behavior that's going to make people want to be around you. And I think it's a great book. So if you haven't read that one, or if you haven't read it in a long time, highly recommend you picking up that book and starting with that.
That's amazing, yeah. And just to kind of dovetail this into the business side of things, I just know from what you just said to be true. When you're working with business is people, and I know Gary Keller said one time, I went and did all this research, and they said it was going to take 3 key hires. And I know Jim Collins said, 10 out of your most important decisions in business are going to be, 7 of them are going to be people decisions. Right. And I do think when you do these things that we're talking about, that you may not realize, but when you, from a core value standpoint, that's what attracts people to you. That's what repels people from you. And if you look at the people that you want to attract to your company, the people that end up working out, the people that you just, I never want another one of those again. Establishing these these things and who you want to become, what you want your life to look like, and really engineering that and getting some of those things that sometimes people want to skip a step to go faster.
Right.
Right? Like they feel like they're going to go faster, but
That's like the hiring. I always think of the hiring process
Right.
for that. Right. It's like, that seems pretty complex. I'm gonna skip that group interview part, and
Right.
I'm gonna skip this, this part, and then until you make a few bad hires, right?
Right.
You thought you were moving faster, but the cost of a rehire, it's every step matters.
Right. And so like as we translate, over into and I don't even know that this was the goal of what I was trying to say, but as we do go into and start talking about the business side of things, I just want people to not discount doing the internal work on your own self, because the best part of the business is not about the business, it's about the person you become when you're growing the business.
Right.
And so like you don't realize it, you think it's all these other things. Your success is a reflection of the person that you become along the way of building the business. And so it really is, the biggest constraint to growing your business is really your own self.
Right, no doubt. One of the exercises that that we go through, and you've probably gone through, and all of us have gone through, I think, is that making that list of all the things you want to do or all accomplish, and sometimes it'll be, you want to own this or have this or whatever it might be, and there's all these things over time. But the question that comes after that is, who do you have to become in order to accomplish that or have those things? And don't skip that question, because like when you start thinking about that question, think about all the things you want in your life. Who do you have to become in order to have those things or to accomplish that? Is really at the crux of what what you should be working on every day, right? Like that's the real meat and potatoes of and it's funny because you get real clear about, man, I've just been saying I'm not good at this, or I'm not, that's not for me. I'm just not wired that way. We tell ourselves these stories of all these reasons why maybe we're not going to be able to do that, or we, but it's all a story, right? Like you can become whoever you need to be and whoever you want to become once you decide that's who you want to become. So don't look past that, especially this time of year. Going into depending on when you're listening to this podcast. I mean, it's being recorded in December, so this time of year is the time to get clear on that and to take the time and do those exercises and get crystal clear about what it is you want in your life, where it is you want to go, and then and only then can you start to reverse engineer a plan that's going to help you get there, right?
Right, and I feel like this is a product. We'll provide you with the question, but I was thinking about the questions we did with Chesley,
right?
Which were, I don't remember the name of the exercise,
right?
But it was similar. It was all trying to get you to answer, every question from, one of the questions was who would you want to be on a road trip with, to where are the places you'd want to visit that and if you could visit one place in the world, or there was all kinds of really great questions. So anyway, that just I believe that your success comes out of that, and at the end of the day, I think your fulfillment and the value you get out of building your business is beyond the things that you could buy. I mean, there becomes a point where you can eat as many. You don't want another steak, and all your shirts look the same, just different colors.
Right. And I tell you this, there's a point at which you get tired of working on all of the foilers and toys and all the stuff you have.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I started liquidating. You know what I'm saying? I was like, this is just too much work anymore. I don't need 10 foilers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So there's a point. There's a point at which all that stuff is fun and it's part of what you do as a family and go do things or whatever. But like collecting stuff ain't what life's all about. It's about doing things that are
collecting
meaningful.
Experiences.
Right. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And speaking of experiences, I'm excited about Lake Tahoe. So
yeah.
That's and again, I think we've said this before. I think most people know this, but unless you either create this place that we're talking about, that's an environment where people are making you grow and pushing you to get better every single day. If you can create that environment and attract those kinds of people in your life. But my strongest recommendation to you is to find a group of people that are like-minded, that are at a level above you, And I think this is a really important thing. I've heard too many times people say, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that. The best thing you can do, and I think everybody's heard this quote too, is you try to be the dumbest guy in the room. We've done that our entire lives, and that's been it's worked very well for us because it wasn't hard for me to be the dumbest guy in the room most of the time.
Right.
But you get into that, you get into a room where people just suck you to the top, man. They pull you up to becoming a better person, and it happens. I see it happen here in this environment in our company. I see it happen in our masterminds where people don't believe for whatever reason. They're telling themselves a story that it's not for them, they can't do it, or for this reason or whatever. And then, when you got 20 people around you that are going to bust that belief and not going to let you get away, they love you enough to hold you accountable to your own vision and dream. There's nothing that I've found that's better than that.
Right.
For me, that's what I really. That's inspiring. You know
Right,
what I'm saying?
right.
Is to be able to be in that environment as many times and as often as you possibly can, because that's gonna really change who you are, and those people you create relationships for life with.
Right.
But yeah, it's that's a big part of being successful. Creating this until you have someone that's pushing you, challenging you to see things differently, and grow personally is a valuable relationship you should be investing in.
Heck yeah. And if you want to come mastermind with us in Tahoe, I think it's in February, you have to be doing a minimum of 100 deals. But if you're interested in being a guest, checking out what we're doing, I think you can go to, I'm pretty confident you can go to naea.com/mastermind. And I say that because I want to share a real quick story. I met a guy, and a year later, he called me up and we had a meeting. And when I met him originally, he wanted to grow his business and do all this stuff. And what happened was he was very clean cut, very articulate, smart guy. And I remember, this doesn't happen a lot, but I remember thinking, well, man, I always want to know what people's goals are. And I remember thinking, man, his goals are a little too lofty. I don't know that we'll be able to get him to where he wants, the income he wants, because it was kind of pie in the sky.
Right.
And I don't know why I believed him, but I did. He was very convincing. And a year later, about 12, 13 months later, I could do the math, but just I don't remember the exact days. He reached out to a guy that I knew and wanted to re-meet with me. And we sat down, and I remember, he had done some big commercial deals. The point is that the guy's business was minus 10, 12% of where it was when I saw him last. I mean, he really had made no significant change. And I just seen too many people double their business by changing their thinking, by learning how to think differently, by becoming more aware. And I don't know exactly, but I remember I said, and I remember Jay Abraham said, if you were in the desert, I'd sell you water. You have to believe in what you're doing. That for me, our mastermind group is probably the most powerful thing that we have for a number of reasons. I could go into all the reasons why we started it, why it was a lost leader, but we did it because it's where we got the most fulfillment, and that's where we aligned. And now we have amassed a great amount of, I would call super achievers. But the main thing about the people in that room is every single person teaches. I'm fascinated with learning how to think, how to process, how to make decisions. How can I make the same amount of decisions I made last year? How can I make them in half the time? And thinking is a constraint in itself, and taking action is encouraging, especially because when you get another experience, you get growth. Even if it's a lesson learned from a mistake you make, you still can pass that on to someone else in the room, or you can learn from other people's mistakes and not have to make them.
It's nice to not have to crash into the wall.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what you did for me. That's why I grew my business quickly.
Right.
Because you did that for me, and when you can, I never could articulate what made our mastermind. Now, I knew in the book, Laws of Success, I think it's the number 1 or number 2 book sold next to the Bible, but it's one of the top books.
Right.
And at the very last chapter, it talked about the power of the mastermind. I watched the video. You can watch them on YouTube. I did all that, and one day I was walking in BVI, I just got out of an amazing room, and a guy walks up to me, catches me, and says, "Reese," and I was like, "What's up, man?" He said, "Are you going to go to we were having a luau on the beach," and he was like, "Are you going to be there? What time are you heading down?" I was like, "Yeah, I was just going to go change real quick." He said, "Dude, this was the best one yet ever." And I was like, "Dude, that's so funny. You're the third person that said that. How can we say that every time?" And he said, "I don't know. We were talking about that last night." And I said, "That's just crazy." And so I continued on to my room. And I was reading this white paper by Ray Dalio, which is just a fascinating document.
Go to
It's on
principles.com.
Yeah, it's
If you want to, print it out, go find a quiet place, read it, the whole thing.
Life-changing.
100-something pages, but it's absolutely a great collection of information from a person who's
number
learned.
one hedge fund in the world.
Right.
And so I had that in my bed. I had printed it. I'd read it on the plane. It was in my bed. So I had this principle-based thinking, which is a place him and Elon Musk both come from. And so I was just I'm always trying to and we didn't even know what principles were. And I was like trying to drill down to what the principle was, and I got it because Ray Dalio, Charlie Munger, these are the top decision makers in business in the world. They make decisions, and what they said was they basically, there's these things called mental models, which are the toolkit for the brain for processing decisions. And so long story short, I was wondering what was the model, and I realized that's what it is. What it is a mastermind is a mental model is a way that someone kind of they hand a little piece of information to you. You know, some people like, oh, my grandpappy always used to say, don't ever trust somebody that cuss. I know that's a stupid example, but the example was to make the point that you hear these little sayings. Well, when you get around very successful, ultra, like a Richard Branson, a Joe Polish, someone that's, an amazing guy like Dan Kennedy at marketing, or any area of life, fitness, they have these collections of things that they've taken that they made their way of processing the world and making their decisions. And if you can learn those, which one of mine I learned was lose your cool, lose your case, which was an amazing one that I needed to learn, and I got that from Mark Chesley. But you get these and you collect them like baseball cards. Well, in that room, you're getting all of these mental models from every perspective, whether it's hiring a certain position. One of the ones that, always assume positive intent. That was one that I got this year. That was a good one for me because there was a lot of times I was around people and I was over analyzing the situation and I was trying to understand the negative side. And but I knew that wasn't coming from a good place. And so it gave me peace of mind to say.
What was that? That's in the Laws of Success as well. So that's Napoleon Hill's book, Laws of Success. Michael was referencing earlier with Mastermind in the last chapter, and the power of the Mastermind. And then what was what's the law? Assume positive intent. Anyways, there's a chapter on that. Inaccurate thought.
Yeah.
Everyone should read that and go through that as well because I think we all naturally come from that place of, man, what are you trying to?
But I got that from you. But my point is that at a stoplight, you gave me that. I was talking about a situation.
I'll never forget as long as I live.
I was sitting at the light and I was looking at a negative situation. This was years before I didn't have the mental handles to the language. I always seek positive intent that I could teach to my kids. But I had the concept, which was, I used to call it negative thinking, inaccurate thought. I would kind of, but I understood the context.
But not that mental model.
Not that mental model to deposit for me to like an iPhone app in my brain to always go and reference when making decisions. And so my only point is that when you get around people that are where you want to be and they deposit those, your ability to make decisions in your business, which is you just have to learn how to make more decisions per day, per hour, become more decisive, and you want to make the right ones, obviously not the wrong ones. So by learning the lessons learned and collecting the mental models for making and processing decisions from people who've already got to where you want to go, it is my best articulation of why you want to be in the room with super smart people. That's it.
No question about it. So there's some nuggets there, man. No, that's all good. I've got to run actually. So, yeah, man, that's good stuff, man. There's a lot of great stuff that we shared there intermittently throughout that podcast. So definitely the Dalio principles.com. Definitely download and read that. It's incredible. And I just challenge you to spend some time, working on yourself, working on what's important to you, and getting clear about that. And as we always say here at NAEA,
we'll either see at the top or from the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.